Hey everybody, this is Paul with the 125 Roller Coaster Challenge, and today we are doing our first top 10 list. Now, everyone has a reason to ride a roller coaster. Nostalgia maybe, a flashback to when you were younger. How about adrenaline rush? Riding the tallest or fastest roller coaster in the park will get your heart rate going. No matter what your reason, I'm pretty sure to be in pain isn't one of them. However, these 10 coasters we talk about today did just that. Whether it was a sore neck, a bruised knee, or even worse, these coasters made us check the park map to find that first aid station. So before we kick off our list, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. 2023 is kicking off and we will be visiting 50 parks, and that means a lot of new Explore videos, hundreds of shorts, and of course more lists like this one. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Before we kick off this list, we want to thank both Airtime Thrills and Canopy Coasters for allowing us to use their footage for this video. We only kicked off this channel about a year ago, so our B-roll is lacking compared to these two great channels, so make sure you check them out and subscribe. Now, every year we rank all of the coasters we have ridden, and at this time of the video, we are currently at 352 coasters. We rank them all, even the kiddie coasters, and in January on our podcast, we share the bottom 25, which we like to call the Ouch List. To hear the complete list of 25 coasters, check out the Trimmed and Stapled podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or even the link in the description. But here we are focusing only on the bottom 10, so let's kick it off. Number 10, Runaway Mine Train, Six Flags Great Adventure. We love mine trains, and most parks have one of these classic aero coasters on their roster. While most are great family attractions, this one, for lack of a better word, is brutal. Built in 1974 and one of the original rides at Great Adventure, time has not been too kind to this coaster. Only 60 feet tall with a 39-foot drop, you would think it wouldn't beat you up too bad. Heck, it only goes 39 miles an hour, but sadly, that is not the case. Whether it slams you left and right, or in the case of the final drop over the water, vibrates you until your teeth are chattering, this ride looks like a family coaster, but would leave you staggering out of the station. Number 9. Flight Deck at Canada's Wonderland. To say this Cedar Fair park has some bad rides is an understatement. Rides like Time Warp, Wild Beast, and Silver Streak are all known for their horrible experiences, but for us, Flight Deck, their SLC, takes the title as the worst. If you are new to roller coasters, SLC stands for Suspended Looping Coaster and are built by Vekoma. They are known for being some of the worst coasters ever built and always have some representatives on this list. Flight Deck is pretty standard when it comes to an SLC, with 2,260 feet of track, 109 foot in height, 5 inversions, and almost 50 miles per hour. What makes these rides bad is the layout, with the quick turns and inversions coupled with the hard steel restraints and a very thin layer of padding to protect your head and face as you slam into them. While newer SLCs like Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags New England and the Great Nor'easter at Maurice Piers have improved on these points, sadly, Flight Deck is still in its original condition. Number 8. Kitty Hawk at Carowinds. What is worse than an SLC? How about an SLC built for children? Yes, Kitty Hawk has all the issues of a larger SLC, but made for children and parents. The stats of this coaster is pretty much half of the original, with 1,122 feet of track, 26 miles an hour, and about 50 feet in height, with no inversions, but that really doesn't matter. The layout of Kitty Hawk has you slamming from side to side and has to be the perfect punishment for any child that gets out of line. The sad thing is, Carowinds actually rethemed and repainted this ride after we rode it in 2017, and it still hurts as much as it did back then. So parents, don't take away your child's phone when they're misbehaving. Take them to Carowinds and make them marathon this ride for hours. Number 7, Shockwave at King's Dominion. Sadly, this is one of 2 defunct rides on this list, and the sad part is, there is only 2 of them. Shockwave is a stand-up roller coaster built by Togo. Let that sink in for a bit. Togo, not great. A stand-up coaster, not great. What could go wrong? This ride stood at 95 feet and had an inversion and went 50 miles an hour. It had over 2,000 feet of track, which for most people was 1,900 feet too long. Up and down, side to side, this ride slammed you in every direction. And if you're a man, let's just say you had to stop by and get an ice pack for your lap when you were done with this ride. Seriously, if B&M couldn't get it right, what chance did Togo have? You know a roller coaster is pretty bad when a flat ride takes its place and nobody complains. Seriously, nobody was upset when this left the park. Number 6, Le Monstre at La Ronde. On our podcast, we actually break down both sides of this ride because even though it looks like a racing coaster, both sides are different, even with one being 25 feet longer than the other. This is the only wooden coaster on this list, and that's mainly because when a ride gets this bad, there's a call to RMC to step in and, well, do their thing. The green side is so much worse than the blue, and this ride actually knocked our friend Aaron around so much that he had to spend the rest of the day on a bench. Even at the border, the guard thought he did not look too good. Yes, when we hit the border, the guard actually asked if Aaron was okay, and we just looked at the guard and said, he rode Le Monstre. The guard smiled and said, go ahead through. While the blue side barely makes it back to the station, the green side vibrates, shakes, throws you around so much that it makes the SLC at the park look like one of the top rides. The sad thing is we actually rode the new trains when we went, and we can only imagine the carnage if the original trains were still around. Number 5, Goliath at Six Flags New England. Our second defunct coaster came all the way from the West Coast to bring the pain. While others say this giant boomerang was actually a decent ride when it had the original trains, the experience we had was horrifying and one that gave us flashbacks for months. Whether it was the Cobra Roll, the jerky stop at the top of the spike, or the fact that we had to do it all again backwards, Goliath was not long for this world, and we actually enjoy the empty space now more than the actual ride. Number 4, Superfly at Playland Park at Rye, New York. Vekoma isn't the only manufacturer that has created some horrible rides. Zamperla has a Volare model, which is their spin on a traditional flying coaster. While our first Volare was at Luna Park at Coney Island called Soarin' Eagle, that ride was actually quite enjoyable, so imagine our surprise when we jumped on Superflight and had our jaw cracked. Flipping, flopping, and spinning, this ride is what happens when you jump into a dryer with rocks and bees and rocks with bees and leave it on for about 3 days. So much pain in so little time. And the fact that they have one of these at Canada's Wonderland makes us fear for our next visit. We need that credit, but we're not sure we actually want to get on Time Warp after this ride. Number 3, Mind Eraser at Six Flags Darien Lake. We have been doing this list for 5 years, and every year the worst ride was always Mind Eraser at Six Flags America. Heck, it literally shifted my jaw on the brake run. Yes, at 5 miles an hour, that ride slammed the restraint into my face where it was so loud that the person in the row ahead of me actually heard it crack. But this year, Mind Eraser at Six Flags America didn't even make the top 10, but its twin at Six Flags Darien Lake did. Just like Flight Deck, this SLC has the same layout, trains, restraints, and self-abuse as the others, but for some reason this ride just really made my neck throb. A plus is that it goes over a lake. But just like this ride, the water is green, furry, and has an odor. Number 2, Corkscrew at Cedar Point. Yes, Cedar Point has a ride on this list, and if you ever rode it in the last 5 years, you know why. This ride goes right over the midway at this amazing park, and those corkscrews are pretty iconic. The problem is this ride is years past its heyday and in serious need of retracking, or at this point, destruction. Listen, keep the corkscrews over the midway, but get rid of the head-slamming, neck-twisting, jaw-clenching coaster. I would prefer a few trees and a rodent exhibit instead of this coaster. And our new number 1 coaster when it comes to self-hatred, Carolina Cyclone at Carowinds. Okay, let me walk you through this. When we first visited Carowinds in 2017, Carolina Cyclone was bad. No, it was horrible. So we didn't expect much when we returned in 2021. But we jumped on Hurler, and it was so much better than we remembered that we went into this ride with some expectations. Heck, they said they retracked and even repainted this coaster, so it had to be better, right? You already know the answer at this point. All the transitions made us groan. Every inversion was a fight, and even the brake run at the end brought no relief. Neck braces and Advil need to be given out when you leave the station. Yes, it doesn't look like a bag of Skittles exploded anymore, but as for a ride, I think the Geneva Convention needs to get involved for an inhumane torture. So, that's our list. What do you think? Do we miss a ride you expected to be on the list? Do you actually enjoy any of these rides? Leave your comments and we will answer them. Also remember to like and subscribe to this channel if you like what we do, and our next video will be discussing our favorite coasters, so keep an eye out for it soon.